How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Monster Territory, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Hope you're all having a good lunch right now. I know this is a little surprising. I'm coming on here midday. We are still going to be going live for the post-game show tonight, so be on the lookout for that after the Red Sox-Phillies game tonight. But we had some news come across the desk last night. Few little rumors, few little juicy tidbits that I wanted to dive into. Because if I talk about all that stuff later tonight, it's going to take forever for that episode. So I'd rather just do it in a separate episode. I'll take a couple of clips from this as well. I'll upload them as separate videos if you want to get more of a quick fill at some point later on today. But we do have something on first base. Alex Spear putting out an article yesterday on the Boston Globe. Jarren Duran continues to be in the rumor mill. That man cannot escape the rumor mill. No matter what he does, he just can't get out of it. And then we also got ESPN coming out with their top 50 trade deadline candidates. A few little things from Kylie McDaniel in there as well. He put out his own article talking about the outfield surplus with the Red Sox starting pitching and so on. So I'm going to dive into that in this episode. I see a few of you are trickling on in. If you can, just hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. We are trying to get to 5K by the end of the season. We got a busy, 9 days left until the trade deadline here. So let's dive into it. Seeing a lot of familiar faces in the chat. Thank you for joining me today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. Let's talk about first base first, shall we? Let's dive into first base. So Alex Spear coming out with this article, I believe it was yesterday afternoon, don't remember the exact time, but, kind of talking about Abraham Toro, Romy Gonzalez, the dynamic duo at first base ever since they took over for Tristan Casas, who went down at the beginning of May. These guys have been doing a great job overall. And actually, we can take a look at the numbers here. Since Tristan Casas went down, the Red Sox, they ranked 12th overall in WRC+, with a 114. It's been a solid platoon. Romy Gonzalez, he's been amazing, hitting 307 with a 344 on base, 547 on the slugging, a 136 WRC+. This guy's been mashing lefties. I love me some Romy Gonzalez. And then Abraham Toro, he's been a pleasant surprise. He just came out of nowhere in spring training. This guy's been trying to find his way for the last couple of years, and he's really stepped up for the Red Sox this year. Pretty solid numbers overall. Hitting 280, a 330 on base, a 425 on the slugging, a 104 WRC+, right around league average. However, it's been a bit of a different tune as of late over the last month. Now, Romy, he's been red hot. He's got a 163 WRC+ over the last 30 days. But Abraham Toro here, as you can see, a bit of a different story for Mr. Toro. Now, he's hitting 273, not bad. 355 on base, that's pretty solid as well. But you look at the slugging, 318, WRC+, 87. At first base, you want a bit more damage, right? You want guys that are just going to be able to do more for you. Especially Abraham Toro, the lefty bat, who's going to be seeing just the majority of the playing time because he's a lefty hitter going up against the right-handed pitchers. So you do need, in my opinion, a bit of an upgrade here. Again, he does a good job of getting the bat on the ball. He gets on base, but when it comes to driving in the runs, getting more bases, you do want a bit of an upgrade there. Now, if they end up making a move, I'm not sure what happens to Toro at that point. Could he be a guy off the bench? I don't know. Could he accept an assignment down to AAA? I don't know what would happen there, right? But numbers-wise, there is definitely an argument for an upgrade here. Now, Alex Spear diving into a few possibilities at first base. Talks about the Diamondbacks in this article. Now, with the Diamondbacks, it's a little weird right now, right? Because they're just hovering around 500. They just can't fully get themselves thrusted into being in that serious postseason contender mode. Who knows? Maybe they do a Detroit Tigers from last year and they just get red hot in the second half. And that's very possible, right? They still have a lot of talent on that team. So I'm interested to see what the Diamondbacks end up doing. I think they could go a few different routes. Obviously, they could just sell, right? These expiring contracts, Josh Naylor, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eugenio Suarez. They could definitely go that route. Or maybe they go a bit of more of a soft sell, or maybe they trade maybe a couple of those guys, right? Hang on to a couple of them, try to compete in the second half. I could see them moving Eugenio Suarez either way because they have Jordan Lawler, one of the higher ranked prospects in the game. He can take over at third base. So I could see him getting moved regardless. Zach Gallen, he's been very up and down this year. So I don't know. I mean, are they going to get what they think is fair value for him? He would be a rental. You wouldn't get much to begin with, right? You're not going to be getting, a top 10 prospect in the game, obviously, but I don't know, because he's been so up and down, how much are you actually going to get for him? Merrill Kelly, I could see them getting a lot more for him because he has been solid this year. But Josh Naylor, he's interesting. I could see a scenario where they move him or trade him. I could see that going either way. He would be a great fit for the Red Sox, in my opinion. Taking a look at the numbers. Hit 293, 362 on base, 452 on the slugging, a 125 WRC plus. Now with Naylor, when you're taking a look at the advanced metrics here, the batted ball data, it's not jumping off the page, right? With Naylor, what you're going to see more of, good plate discipline. He's not really going to strike out. He's going to make a ton of contact, and he's going to get a decent amount of walks. 63rd percentile when it comes to the walks. You're going to get a pretty high energy player as well. This is a guy that, he's had a personality, right, over the last couple of years. You remember the cradle the baby thing with Garrett Cole. He gets into those high energy kind of situations, right? We saw it in the postseason. Josh Naylor, I feel like he wouldn't be the same thing as Kyle Schwarber, but he would bring a bit of a personality. Not saying the Red Sox don't have any of that, but he would just bring a little extra juice, a little extra mojo to the clubhouse as well. But then you got Ryan O'Hearn. He's having a career year. Unfortunately, on a bad Orioles team this year, hitting 278, on base, a 373, very good. 451 on the slugging, a 133 WRC plus. Now with O'Hearn, I mean, you're going to see a good amount of Reds mixed in all over the place here, right? Good expected numbers, good exit velo. He's not going to strike out too much. He's going to walk a good amount. He squares up very well. So you are going to see better batted ball data with Ryan O'Hearn. And I wonder if the Red Sox would prefer that. The Red Sox, they like their exit velo. They like these guys that can absolutely bang, right? So I wonder if that would be more of a preference for them because he also comes along with some good plate discipline as well, along with being a rental. He's going to cost you something, but he's not going to break the bank when it comes to giving up prospects. Now, there's also Yandy Diaz, who's been popping up here, right? He mentioned Yandy in this article as well. And let's actually go back here to the article. Let's read this part. There have been rumblings that the Rays could consider dealing Yandy. And it's endlessly fascinating to imagine a scenario in which Tampa Bay packages Diaz, who is signed through next season, and a starting pitcher such as Taj Bradley or Shane Baz for a Sox outfielder such as Wilyer Abreu. But such a scenario is seen by multiple major league sources as extremely unlikely, with a deal of such magnitude seen as a near impossibility for division rivals who are competing for a postseason berth. So yeah, I don't see that. It's already hard to imagine, the Rays being in contention, dealing Yandy in division. That sounds a little weird to me. Ryan O'Hearn, that's a little different because the Orioles are out of it. And also, another thing to mention with O'Hearn, he has that American League East experience. So that's another reason why I think the Red Sox would really like him. But with Yandy, the Rays are trying to compete. So I don't see them moving Yandy to the Red Sox. That just feels weird. Especially moving Taj Bradley. Like, where is this coming from? Taj Bradley has been popping up in the rumor mill a little bit over the last week because he would bring back a really good return, and they have Shane McClanahan coming back. So I could see them listening on Bradley or Baz as well. That's something the Rays, they like to do that as well, right? They really like to sell high, especially when they have multiple years of control. We've seen them do that in the past. But I don't see the Rays trading Taj Bradley or Shane Baz in the division not especially when they're in contention. And I don't see the Red Sox wanting to move Willie or Abreu, especially in division. That just makes no sense. This part of the article just feels weird to me. Maybe Yandy on his own. I don't see it. So to me, I would think if you're going after a first baseman, I'm looking at Josh Naylor or Ryan O'Hearn. However, those are rentals. Alex Spear does mention another option. I think this is unlikely, but it's interesting. He says here, the A's merit watching both because they're one of the few teams without realistic hopes of contending this season, and because they have a surplus of first baseman / left field / DH bats in 22-year-old rookie masher Nick Kurtz, longtime DH corner outfielder Brent Rooker, and first baseman / corner outfielder Tyler Soderstrom. He goes on to say they're not going to move Kurtz, they're not going to move Rooker. Remember when we were dreaming about Brent Rooker last year? I was really hoping the Red Sox get their hands on him. But he says Soderstrom is seen across the industry as a potential trade target with 4 remaining years of team control after 2025. I never thought the A's would even consider moving him, to be completely honest. Now, looking at Soderstrom, very good numbers overall. Hitting .258, .333 on base, .449 on the slugging, a .115 WRC plus, 18 homers. Multiple years of control. He's not a free agent until after 2029. Very cheap. I could totally see teams out there liking Tyler Soderstrom. But here's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I don't see really why because he mentions in the article they have a surplus. I don't know. I mean, if Soderstrom can go out and play left field, you have Kurtz at first base and then Rookers or DH. I don't really look at that as a surplus. I look at the Red Sox outfield situation as a surplus, right? With Yoshida involved, obviously. So, unless I'm missing something, to me, I don't really see, if you're the A's, why you would have to move Soderstrom at this point, unless I'm going completely blank. I mean, I know you got JJ Bleday. They moved him back down to AAA recently. He wasn't really doing anything. So, again, I don't see the need to move Soderstrom. I mean, that could be interesting. If you were to acquire Soderstrom, that would signal the end of Tristan Casas in Boston at that point. I mean, he'd be a great bat to have. I mean, of course. I mean, if we were to take a look here at Soderstrom when it comes to the metrics here on StatCast, I mean, you're seeing a good amount of reds as well. I mean, this guy, he hits the crap out of the ball. Good batted ball data. I mean, you can still see an improvement when it comes to the plate discipline. There's a decent amount of swing and miss. He does chase a little often, strikes out a decent amount. He's middle of the road when it comes to the walks. But yeah, I don't see why the A's would move him. I mean, this is a team that, again, just because a team is out of it doesn't mean they're just going to sell off all these guys. I could see a situation where if they move Soderstrom, that could help them get back some pitching. Maybe you could see a scenario like that. I wouldn't completely rule it out because he would bring back decent value. I do think the A's, they need to beef up the pitching a little bit. Do they move Severino? He hasn't pitched well in Sacramento at their home ballpark there. He's been open about, not really enjoying pitching there. He's been a lot better on the road. If they moved him, I mean, they could definitely save some money. They wouldn't have to pay him. Remember, they had to sign Severino not Severino exactly, but they had to sign someone this past offseason, or the Players Association, they were going to file a grievance because they were moving and, they need to go out there and spend some money, basically. So I could see Severino getting moved. You got Jeffrey Springs, who's under control. You got JP Sears, you got Ginn. You got Gage Jump down in the minor leagues as well. They have a couple of decent pitching prospects there. But I feel like they really need to beef up the pitching more. So if they could get back a pitcher in return for Soderstrom that's cost controlled, maybe. Now, if we were to look at a scenario with the Red Sox and the A's, I mean, you could definitely do it. And I feel like this is the sweet spot on where the Red Sox would like to deal. As of right now, he has a surplus value, I'd say a surplus median value of right around $25 million. So that's going to be a couple of decent prospects. That's going to be, maybe even a few. Now, the first names that come to mind to me, you could do the password, Yo Stinson, and Connolly Early, right? That really puts you in that ballpark. If you were to get a deal done, they'd get a bat in return in Garcia, who's very close to Major League ready, so he could be their next guy up for next year. And then you get a pitcher in Connolly Early. So again, it's kind of like that sweet spot where the Red Sox, they're not having to, give up someone. I mean, I guess you could talk about Franklin Arias, but I don't think you would have to. Peyton Tolley, I don't think is going to be in any conversations. Brandon Clark, I would imagine the Red Sox would like to hang on to him. But could you do someone like Early, who's really done well this past year? The password, who is a bit blocked at this point. Could you do something like that? Maybe something with David Sandlin. I think there are possibilities if they were to explore this route. I just wonder about the motivation from the A's point of view. That's where I'm at personally. So we'll see. Again, he did mention it in the article, saying people across the industry do see him as a potential trade target. We'll see. I think the A's, they would have to be enamored with a deal to get a deal done. Let's move on here. Before we do, though, we do have a word from one of our sponsors for this episode today. I'll be right back.
You know about the best place to buy, sell, trade, or look for that special card in your world. It's called Arena Club, and Eric Kratz just went through a little slab pack experience, and you went big. You went for the Ruby pack.
I love it. I love clicking on the Ruby pack and knowing that I'm going to open something that is going to be epic. I got a Cal Ripken Jr. autographed 1 of 42. I'm keeping it right now, but I would love to have it in my hand, so I might even have them send it to me. Already graded. Everything taken care of for me.
That's right. You want to hang it up and stare at it all day, go for it. But if you're in there to get something else or to sell it away, you can do that. They've got the buyback program, or you can put it on the marketplace yourself. Tons of options. This is where the best cards live. It's arenaclub.com/foul and use the code FOUL for 20% off your first slab pack, or if you'd like to purchase a card, 20% off your first card purchase. Again, arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL.
All righty, let's move on here, shall we? And we got a little something here. We got a little something here on Jarren Duran. Like I said at the start of the show, this man cannot escape the rumor mill. He just can't. No matter what he does, he can't get away from the rumors. But we got a few different things here. We got something here on CBS Sports. You got to love it when we hear all the stuff about the scouts coming to watch, right? A Padres scout has been at every Red Sox home game over the past 3 weeks with eyes on Duran. San Diego needs outfield help, and Duran could fill their hole in left field. The question is whether the Padres have the pieces to interest Boston in a deal. Head of baseball operations A.J. Preller has shown he's relentless when targeting players, so the Red Sox will certainly listen. We also had this from Jesse Rogers saying here that actually, he goes into this whole thing about the Red Sox in this article. He actually got a quote here from Tabani saying, having a surplus of good players isn't a bad thing. The high-end depth is a really good thing. It's not like we're anxious to move away from that. Now, my read on that personally, again, there's nothing wrong with having, a surplus. He's not wrong there. But there is a bit of leverage sprinkled into that statement because you don't want teams. You want to put yourself in the strongest possible negotiation stance, right? When you put something out there like that, you are saying, like, listen, we're not giving this guy up easily. If you want this player, you're going to have to give us something fair in return, right? You want to be in a strong stance negotiation-wise. So simply saying, hey, we like all this depth. We don't have to move him. We don't have to move any of these guys. So it's good for the Red Sox to come out and say something like that. You know, they have been, Craig Breslow has said that himself. So he goes on to say in this, let me find the quote here. Let me see. I had the quote. Where is this? I always lose stuff in the articles. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. With that group helping the Red Sox hold an American League wildcard spot, the front office is likely to add pitching, according to sources familiar with their situation, while returning the abundance of outfielders unless the club is blown away with an offer in the next 10 days. So, Jesse Rogers saying that they would have to be blown away for someone like Duran or Abreu. Again, you want to put yourself in a good position. We also had this from ESPN, Jeff Passan, Kylie McDaniel. They came out with their top 50 trade candidates. Jarren Duran is number 3 on this list. They list the best fits as San Diego, the Braves, the Guardians, the Royals, the Giants, and the Phillies. I mean, the Padres with Jarren Duran, it's been the worst kept secret in all of baseball this year. The Braves, I think the Braves are in an interesting spot where they're not looking good right now. They're looking like they're completely out of it at this point. But could this be sort of like a Alex Anthopoulos? This is a guy that he doesn't just like to sell, right? He's got a ton of talent on that team. At the very least, he's just going to be looking to compete next year. So I wonder if they could do something where you bring in Duran, you sell off some other guys like Marcell Ozuna, right? Expiring contracts, but you also find a way to bring in Duran who could be with your team for the next few years. You know, I could see a scenario like that with Atlanta. I think the Guardians are interesting. I feel like they need a little bit more pop in the lineup. I don't know. I feel like, you know, Stephen Kwan, Jarren Duran at the top of the lineup, I think that could be pretty interesting, but I feel like they just need a little bit more thump in the middle, right? You got Kansas City. You know, they're not looking amazing right now. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing here. You could maybe see a situation there. They could use some more offensive production in the outfield. The Giants, could you imagine the Red Sox making another deal with the Giants? And the Phillies, right? The Red Sox playing the Phillies right now. Dave Dombrowski, I could totally see him being interested in Duran. They need, I think, a bit more of an upgrade there. Brandon Marsh, he's been a little underwhelming this year, in my opinion. Max Kepler, you know, he's not blowing the roof off the door by any means. You know, so I could see that. And Jim Bowden, take Jim Bowden with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen. That is rule number 1 when it comes to Jimmy Jim. But he says here, the Padres and Phillies would love to land Duran. However, the Padres really don't match up with Boston unless the Sox would take a pitcher on an expiring contract like Dylan Cease or Michael King. Or perhaps they could try a 3-way trade with the Marlins where Boston would land Edward Cabrera from Miami. The Padres would get Duran and the Marlins would get prospects from both Boston and San Diego. The Sox are building for the short and long term. Expect them to buy at the deadline with starting pitching and first base their priorities. Now, getting back to the Padres here for Jarren Duran. He absolutely fits, right? It makes a ton of sense. I will say, though, I did a video not too long ago on the main channel saying I don't necessarily think Duran is the biggest need for them. I think he fits, obviously, positional-wise, but I think the Padres need a bit more power in this lineup. I don't think Duran would hurt at all having him in this lineup, but I could see personally where the argument for Taylor Ward could be stronger because he's going to give you a decent amount of home runs in the middle of the order, which the Padres need. Duran would obviously not hurt, though, in this lineup. So it makes sense. Again, the problem is how do the Padres get this done? Now, I put out this 3-way trade. When did I put this out here? I posted this July 9th. And it seemed like ever since I posted this, everyone's coming out with ideas. Oh, maybe they could do a 3-way deal. I'm not saying I started all of that, but I put out this one. And all of a sudden, everyone's putting out 3-way trades for Jarren Duran left and right. But I did this with Joe Ryan, right? He's cooled off a little bit here over the last week or so, but this was the idea that I had with Joe Ryan. At least maybe this gets the conversation in the right direction. However, with the Padres, I feel like this is going to be the best way, not this exactly, but this type of a trade would be the best way for them to get a deal done. Unless Preller is really wanting to empty his farm. You did just have the draft, so maybe that could come into play a little bit where he feels good about some of the prospects they brought in. Maybe he feels like he could depart with some of them. I think a three-way trade is going to be the best way for the Padres to land Duran if they indeed want him. If you were to go straight up, I think you could get something done, but, what is it going to take here? Jeremiah Estrada could be a really good bullpen arm for the Red Sox to get. He's under a ton of control. He'd be pretty solid there. Maybe you could bring back Dylan Cease. Michael King, he's having some arm issues right now. Not sure what's going on there. Cease has had a down year. Metrics-wise, though, Dylan Cease is still looking pretty strong. So I could maybe see a situation where the Padres, he's not bringing the best results for them, but maybe he could produce somewhere else. And if it helps get them Jarren Duran to help out with their lineup, maybe they could explore something like that. But Cease would not be, the biggest value part of this trade. He would be something, of course. But another thing, too, with the Padres is I don't think they're going to bring him back. I mean, he's a Scott Boras client. He's going to be getting to free agency here soon. I don't see a situation where the Padres are even going to even try to even be in that realm to, visit a long-term deal. So I could see them moving on from him to help them try and get something back here for the next few years. Because you do got Yu Darvish back in the fold now. Michael King's going to come back eventually here. So I could see, let's actually take a look here at the Padres rotation. So taking a look here, Darvish and Pivetta, obviously. King's going to come back soon. So if they feel comfortable with going with Darvish, Pivetta, King, guys like Randy Vasquez at the back end, maybe they could go out there, go get someone like Andrew Heaney or something. Maybe they would feel comfortable dealing Dylan Cease. Because, again, the numbers haven't been great for the Padres, but because of his metrics, maybe he could be better off somewhere else, right? So, I mean, again, I'm not saying this is what I would want in this trade, but could you start off a conversation like this where, Estrada, Cease, their top pitching prospect, Cash Mayfield, I could see the Red Sox being intrigued with him. Maybe a position player prospect like Cale Fountain, a little further away, maybe bring someone back like him, or I don't know, maybe another pitcher. I don't know. I'm not saying the Padres can't get a deal done for Duran. I don't know if it's going to be likely, though. We'll see. I mean, Preller, you saw how aggressive he was last year. You've seen how aggressive Preller's been going back to, what was it, 2020? This guy every single year, he just comes up with something out of his butt every single year. So he just comes out of nowhere. Like last year, you saw the deals that he pulled off, right, to bring in Tanner Scott, Jason Adam. He gave up a lot in those deals. So the problem is, like, what do they have? Do they have enough that's going to be able to land someone like Duran? You're not going to get Leo DeVries. That's not going to happen. Leo DeVries, he has more value than Jarren Duran right now. He's a top 5 shortstop prospect. He's a top 5 prospect in the game, and he's a shortstop. I just don't see the Padres dealing him. Ethan Salas, I don't see the Red Sox really want. Maybe they would want him, possibly. But the bat, it's completely tanked. He's been hurt for a little while now. I don't know. I don't think the Red Sox would want him. If they do, well, then you could definitely be talking here for sure. That's why I have Jeremiah Estrada there, because I don't think the Padres are going to give up Leo DeVries. I don't know if the Red Sox would want Salas. So Estrada would be your next best value option to put in a trade, right? I don't think they're going to give up Adrian Morejon. Waldron, he got sent back down. So I don't know. Like, that's where I just wonder, what do the Padres have? But Preller, I think he's going to keep picking up the phone until he can get something done, or at least try. We'll see. We'll see. Now, another idea for a possible three-way trade. Maybe you could do something with the Pirates where the Red Sox could bring back Mitch Keller. Again, getting back to Salas, though. Would the Pirates want him? I don't think so. The Pirates, they really need bats that not only are good bats, but bats that can help them in the near future. Salas, he doesn't have a good bat, at least as of right now, and he's far away. So I don't see the Pirates really wanting him. I don't see why they would want someone like Jeremiah Estrada. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I don't think this deal really works. We had Jim Bowden. I don't know why I was going so blank. Jim Bowden, he mentioned the Marlins where Edward Cabrera could go to the Red Sox. Listen, I don't want Edward Cabrera. I really don't. I know he's having a really good year. But in my opinion, he lacks the track record. He's had a lot of issues with the arm over the last couple of years. I don't think that's the answer for the Red Sox right now. I just don't. I would rather the Red Sox, instead of getting Edward Cabrera, who is under control, I would rather the Red Sox go out there and go get a rental instead, like Merrill Kelly. I would be much happier with that. And then figure out the pitching in the offseason. All right, maybe you can go sign someone in the offseason. So, I don't know. Edward Cabrera doesn't do it for me, but even still, yes, he's having a good year. The value isn't as high as you would think it would be just because of the track record, the injuries he's had. There's a question mark with him, right? So this trade in itself, I don't think you can really put it together. I mean, you're going to have to add something else with the Red Sox. I don't know. There's nothing else really. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like a weird trade to put together. Like, from the Padres' point of view, let's say they threw Estrada in there going with Cabrera to the Red Sox. I mean, the Red Sox, they're now getting at least close to even value when it comes to Duran. But what are the Marlins going to get here? I don't know. So the Padres, I guess you could flip over a couple more prospects. But then how do you complete the deal for the Marlins? Because the Red Sox, they're already giving up Duran. So the Padres, I mean, they wouldn't have enough prospects here to make the Marlins happy in this deal. So I don't see this one happening. I don't know, it just feels weird. Again, like, I'll go back to it. Maybe the Joe Ryan stuff can heat back up, and maybe you could figure out something here. Or maybe you can just figure it out straight up. It's going to be tough. The Padres would have to give up a lot. And I do feel like Dylan Cease would have to be part of it. Again, is Estrada the guy the Red Sox would want? I'm not sure about that. I just don't know if this is going to be able to get it done. I know Red Sox fans would probably not like this trade at all. That's my guess on that. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. So that's where, again, I get back to that article where they say, good chance maybe the Red Sox just hang on to Duran and they figure it out in the offseason. That's kind of where that might be the best possible move, because Duran is still going to have a lot of value even after this year. So if you did want to move someone, you would have more time in the offseason, more time to breathe, more time to think, and maybe you could do it then. That's kind of the way I'm leaning right now, unless something really gets going where maybe the Twins, they're convinced to move Ryan. I could see that possibly. Or if AJ Preller is really just willing to unload just whatever and anything he has to get him. We'll see. That's kind of where I'm at. I feel like I'm leaning towards Duran probably staying, unless something really picks up here over the next week. A lot can happen here over the next week. We'll see. Let's go over the ESPN article. Before I do, though, we do have one more word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. Never bet on baseball before? Well, it's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride your squad and hope for the best. No spreadsheets, just vibes and dingers. Now, here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Alrighty, let's get to the article here on ESPN. The top 50 trade deadline candidates from Jeff Passan and Kylie McDaniel. Eugenio Suarez listed at number 1. Like I said, I do think Eugenio Suarez is going to be moved regardless whether or not the Diamondbacks want to compete in the second half or if they do want to sell, because they got Jordan Lawler in the fold. So I do agree with him being the number 1. Stephen Kwan is really interesting here. I mean, they would get back a lot for Stephen Kwan if they were to move him. We'll see. But we're focusing on the Red Sox guys here. Jarren Duran, like I said earlier, listed at number 3. I'll repeat what I said. I just think with Duran, I think a lot is going to have to happen here over the next week or so. I just wonder if something's going to materialize, because the Red Sox, they're not just going to sell him for pennies on the dollar, right? They're going to want fair value back for him. Will the Padres have enough? I think they could have enough, but then it comes down to, do the Red Sox want what they could offer, right? I mean, you could get yourself Dylan Cease. He has struggled this year, better advanced metrics though. Maybe that could be something, right? He would just be a rental. I don't know. I could see right now, the way I'm feeling right now, this could change tomorrow. I feel like an off-season move is more likely if you were to go that route. And Rob Bradford, he also did say that if the Red Sox did trade Jarren Duran, that the clubhouse would be none too happy about it. So that is something you do have to factor in as well. I mean, you already moved Rafi. That doesn't seem to be bothering this team. Sorry to say that. They seem to be completely fine. But Duran, that's a little different, right? Because Duran, he's a big part of this team, right? Chemistry-wise, especially. So that would be tough. So that's where I just wonder, off-season might be more likely, unless they really get something that they can't turn down. Sandy Alcantara, they had at number 4. They do list the Red Sox as a possibility. I don't see it personally. He's just having a tough year. A guy that's also had Tommy John now recently. You just brought in Garrett Crochet. He would be pretty cheap to acquire because his value has really gone down. He would cost something, but I don't know if the Red Sox would be interested here. I don't know. I think they want more of a sure thing at this point. Seth Lugo, he doesn't list the Red Sox for Seth Lugo. I wonder if they would kick the tires on this. But we did talk about Lugo on the show not too long ago, where I wonder about the metrics, right? Gives up a few too many hard hit balls for my liking, and I just wonder how that would play at Fenway Park. So I don't know. Lugo, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a call about, but I'm not sure. We go on to see Chris Bubic. Chris Bubic listed as a possibility. Here's the thing with Chris Bubic, right? He's having a very good year. Very good year for the Royals. A breakout year for him. Coming into the season, though, Ken Rosenthal reported that he is going to be on an innings limit. So, and he reported 140 to 150 innings pitched on the year. You got to remember, he was coming back from a surgery not too long ago. He was coming out of the bullpen last year. So it makes sense that he is on some kind of an innings limit. I'm not sure how that comes. It kind of reminds me of Garrett Crochet last year, right? He came back from Tommy John and they had to, really limit him. And if a team if a team wanted to trade for him last year, Crochet said he was, he would only pitch in the postseason if they gave him a contract extension. So I think that was a fair play on Crochet's part. That's something you got to factor in here with Bubic. There is going to be some kind of an innings thing with him. And I don't think for the Red Sox, that would be the best situation overall. Taking a look, Mitch Keller, he listed them. Again, with Keller, he does pretty well at limiting the walks, right? He's going to be a really solid guy to have in your rotation, but fit-wise at Fenway Park, I'm not so sure. He gives up a lot of hard contact. That's why I feel like he would be better off at, say, Wrigley in Chicago, Citi Field with the Mets. I think that would make more sense for Mitch Keller. I wouldn't mind it if they brought him in, and, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't. I do feel like there are better fits out there as well. Zach Gallen. Funny enough, and Merrill Kelly, he lists Merrill Kelly as a guy for Boston, but not Zach Gallen. Well, again, you look at the numbers with Gallen, he's having a tough time. And the Red Sox, right, they have shown the ability to get guys on track. But Gallen, that might be a little too much right now. I feel like unless a team really has the answer for him right now, maybe the Yankees, if the Yankees are to make a move for Eugenio Suarez, then, maybe you could throw in Gallen in that, and maybe Matt Blake could try and work some magic with him. I feel like something with Gallen is going on mechanically here, and my guess with Gallen is he probably ends up staying in Arizona. I could be wrong on that, right? But I wonder if he ends up just staying there. They give him the qualifying offer for next year, and then he can test free agency the year after that. I think with Gallen, it's probably going to take a little bit longer to correct whatever's going on with him. But Kelly, though, Boston is listed here. I've been talking about Merrill Kelly here for a little while. If you're not able to land a cost-controlled guy like Joe Ryan, someone of that caliber, I think Kelly could realistically be a good option here. I really do. A guy that he just goes out there, he pitches, he's durable, he makes his turn every fifth day. He's shown he can pitch well in the postseason. And a guy that he gets not a ton of ground balls. He's going to be right around the 60th percentile. But with the Red Sox, their infield defense, I think, is going to be a lot better in the second half with Marcelo Meyer at second base, Bregman back at third, Story at short. So I think Kelly, just when you factor in, he's a guy that, he's not going to be Joe Ryan by any means. He's not going to be at that caliber, but I think with Kelly, he's just really solid, a good veteran guy. He can pitch in the postseason. He's not going to cost a ton. I could see something for Merrill Kelly. I think it just makes a lot of sense. We'll see, though. There's going to be a lot of competition for him. Josh Naylor, he lists Boston here. Again, we talked about him earlier. I could see Naylor. I think that checks off a lot of boxes. I just wonder if the Red Sox would rather go after someone like Ryan O'Hearn because he has the better batted ball data. Again, they list same thing for O'Hearn here. But you are going to be having competition for these guys, right? They list Seattle for one of these. So I just wonder if one of them goes to Seattle, could the other one just come to Boston, right? And I think both of them, Soderstrom, sure, that would be cool, but I feel like these two logistically would also just make more sense for the Red Sox because you don't know what's going on with Casas. You don't know what's going to happen there. So I feel like the Red Sox, they would like to give themselves a bit more flexibility in the offseason where, let's say they bring in Soderstrom. I mean, you're kind of in a pretty tough negotiation standpoint, with Casas at that point. If you're bringing Soderstrom, Casas is done in Boston, right? That's just not going to happen moving forward if Soderstrom comes in. So I don't know. I just feel like the Red Sox would rather have one of these guys because if you bring in Soderstrom, I mean, like, what do you do with Casas if he's healthy and he's showing that he's good to go? I mean, you have no negotiation power at that point. So I look at it from the front office point of view where I feel like they would rather just bring in a rental and then they figure it out in the offseason, right? Whatever it may be. Taj Bradley, they list him. Again, I don't see it. I don't see the Rays moving Taj Bradley in division. Cabrera, I think there's just too many question marks with him. I think that was it for Boston on this list. I think that was it for the most part. I think out of all of these guys, I think O'Hearn and Kelly are the most realistic options, personally. Also note that Joe Ryan, I don't think Joe Ryan's on this list. So not sure what's going on there. That's where I'm leaning. I feel like the Red Sox, that's kind of my early prediction as of right now. I feel like they end up making a play. Separate trades for Merrill Kelly and Ryan O'Hearn. That's kind of where I'm at right now. 2 separate trades. I'm still going to leave Jarren Duran on the table. I don't think it's impossible to get a deal done. I just feel like it's more unlikely at this point. You never know with AJ Preller, though. That guy is a maniac, and he could absolutely just pull something out. Who knows? Maybe he pulls off another trade somewhere else and maybe flips that guy. I don't know. Preller, that guy's going to be working the phones like crazy. He has just pulled stuff out of thin air before. We'll see. But again, I'll repeat my early prediction as of right now. I feel like the Red Sox will end up landing Merrill Kelly and Ryan O'Hearn. That's where I'm at. But everybody, I'm going to wrap it up right there. For today's show. We'll be back tonight, though, for post-game coverage. But I did want to come on here, talk about all that, because we did the post-game tonight, and then all that, we'll be here for a couple hours. So I wanted to just make a separate episode for today. But everybody, thank you for joining me this afternoon. Hope you're all having a good day so far. Go enjoy the rest of your lunch. I would imagine at least one of you is on a lunch break right now. But I got to go get to work on some content for the main channel, and then we'll be back here tonight for post-game coverage. So go enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you tonight.